Hello and welcome back, all my Dragon Ball theorists. About a week ago, Toyotarou released a bonus image which he has been doing every so often, giving us little treats of information for us to interpret. Which this wonderful image of Vermod with a full head of hair millions of years ago tossing his glove aside in front of what looks like Jiren. Wait, if this is millions of years ago, before he was a god of destruction, then how old is Jiren? Was Jiren in the image or his master that Vermod knew? Why am I saying Vermod when it's Belmod or Vermouth? There are some misunderstandings about the God of Destruction in Universe 11, and today, in this video, we are going to tackle them and get some answers. I didn't put Belmod Explained in the title for nothing, so let's discuss this image that Toyotarou drew, and from all the information we have, we will piece together his origins to tell you a story of going from Pride Trooper to God. Now let's get started. First, in explaining Belmod, let's actually talk about his name, as there are usually some discussions in the comments on what is actually correct or what is accepted. I personally never look at it as correct or incorrect, as many characters can have a lot of aliases and pronunciations. Berumado is his Japanese name is no exception, but thought since we are explaining him, I would give a fun factoid on his name and the fact that if you want to be technically correct about pronunciations because it helps you sleep at night, Belmod is actually wrong. Sometimes in Dragon Ball, what is actually wrong becomes what is accepted and all us fans just roll with the punches. However, the amazing Xyro, who does many of the translations and news in the Dragon Ball and anime community, did a video that is now 2 years old explaining what is the correct way to say Berumado in English. The origin of his name is a pun on Vermouth, as we see in the aliases, and also lists Vermouth and Vermod. Xyro does a fantastic breakdown of how Vegeta in Japanese is Vegeta, and the same goes for Vermod or Berumado. It's the same syllables, so why would we call one Vegeta and one Belmod? The answer is that it's just wrong. Any of the Vermod pronunciations that begin with the letter V would be correct. Errors happen, and now we have come to know his name as Belmod due to the English subtitles, which was a publisher's decision. Xyro goes into further details of the Japanese language and other names in the video. It's great information, so I'll put a link to that in the description and the comments. So personally, you can pick your poison, but I go with Vermod as one of the intended ways to say his name as a pun on Vermouth. Just the same as I say Vegeta's name as a pun on vegetables. If Chewbacca lives on Endor, you must acquit. It doesn't make any sense. Just like we say Saiyan instead of Saiyajin. Anyways, Belmod or Vermod, it's all the same to me, but that is the details of his name and correct way to say it due to the origins and Japanese. I got a Philly southern accent that I try to control when narrating these videos that is different than the correct English language, but a lot of times it can show through. So I never care too much about the correct way to pronounce something, just as long as you can understand what I'm saying. And I don't mean saying. You gotta love English. Moving on to how long Vermod has been a god of destruction and misunderstanding number 2, which is that he has been in this role for only 240,851 years. That is also incorrect. We arrive at this number by the information provided in Manga chapter 28 when Vermod states today is the anniversary that marks 87,910,715 days since he became God of Destruction. Our thought is divide that number by 365, which is how many days there are in a year, and voila. We know how many years he has been clowning around as a destroyer god. Except Universe 11 doesn't have an Earth and the Dragon Ball universe doesn't go by Earth years. We Earthlings are not the center of the multiverse, so our calendar doesn't work for everyone. That is why even in Dragon Ball, there is a King's calendar that signifies time. The Tournament of Power was held on 3,135,500,603rd day of the King's calendar. We can't divide this number by 365 and conclude it was created 8.5 million years ago. It doesn't work that way, because we know for a fact that in the year 41 of the King's calendar, when the Super Dragon Balls were created, it is over 100 million years ago. It happened before the first Kais are known to have come into existence. So these 3.1 billion days date back to the beginning of time, and it's well over 100 million years ago. Which means the 87 million days Vermod is celebrating as a god is equal to millions of years of time, just like Beerus. So if Vermod has been a god of destruction for millions of years, shouldn't that date back before the existence of the Pride Troopers? Shouldn't that be well before Jiren was taken in by his master after his parents were killed? Yes, it should, and while this was a fun drawing of Vermod with a full head of hair and the symbolism of him tossing a glove while wearing the Pride Trooper uniform as a sign of I quit to move on to bigger and better things is interesting, it doesn't quite line up with the story unless you want to change a few things. Obviously, Toyotarou was having fun, and there is no origin story of Vermod as a Pride Trooper. We don't know if they will build on this idea or not in the future and make changes to the story that works, with the fact Vermod has been around for millions of years as a god and has his own very separate ideals that don't work for being part of the Pride Troopers. The one great thing I do like is how open this image is for interpretation, the vagueness of it. A story you can build around it if you want, knowing some of the facts we do. So let's do just that. We learned that Jiren's master Gichin wanted to teach him about teamwork, not just how to get stronger. This is the reason why Jiren joined the Pride Troopers at his master's request. Jiren still focused on power as a means of justice to maintain balance in the universe. As Vermod states, to put it in a less charitable way, Jiren doesn't trust anyone but himself still. He'll never know when things go bad, and he will have to rely on others. Margarita says, "I never expected to hear that from you, Lord Vermod." This is when we learn of the relationship Vermod had with Jiren's master, as he states, "Don't be ridiculous, I'm just parroting Gichin. As a god of destruction, I would never subscribe to such weak thinking," which Margarita says, "And yet you two were friends." Vermod thinking to himself, a long time ago, maybe. Which leads us to the early beginnings of Vermod and Gichin before he decided to be a god of destruction. We don't know much about Jiren's master or how old he was, but perhaps he was a being that in his early years was in the Pride Troopers with Vermod, and this was in fact millions of years ago. Gichin was a strong and young wise fighter that was all about teamwork and relying on others to battle for justice. So in this picture of Vermod tossing aside his glove after what appears to be a difficult battle, the other one in this picture is actually Gichin. He was a strong muscular fighter as well, and Vermod, who became far more powerful than the other fighters in the Pride Troopers, decided that he would carve out his own path, that his ideals don't work for this group. So while Vermod respected Gichin and they fought together, it was time for them to go separate ways. Eventually Gichin would retire from being a Pride Trooper and many years would pass before he would take on a young Jiren as his student. Gichin would have Jiren join the Pride Troopers that he once fought for to learn a final lesson, one that Jiren wouldn't understand until Universe 7 defeated him with teamwork at the tournament. One thing that is unclear is if Vermod was approached by a former god of destruction of Universe 11 because of his power and beliefs. Maybe the previous god saw potential in Vermod and thought he would make a good fit. That it is clear the way Vermod wants to live life was perfect for a god of destruction role. We see Vermod, even in his celebration enjoying food, Hakai one of these jesters in an instant. Margarita stating, "Poor thing, she was just an innocent girl." Vermod, being the destroyer god he is, states that he was going to destroy this planet anyways. Vermod acts very similar to how Beerus does when traveling to planets for enjoyment. If anything is upsetting, innocent or not, if you defy a god then you will be destroyed. Vermod was a perfect fit indeed for this role, but likely hasn't forgot his early beginnings, which is why he aims to retire from being a god of destruction one day that he sought out his replacement from the Pride Troopers. Maybe Vermod still has some attachment to the Pride Troopers from when he was a mortal. That indeed at one time, very long ago, he had someone that despite their beliefs, he could call a friend. Maybe the millions of years as a god and the destruction of countless planets has him once again longing for a much more simple life again, one of being mortal. Maybe he didn't forget his friend after all this time, and now that is the driving reason to finally have a replacement. The road Vermod set out on was definitely an interesting one, and I hope one day the full details of his friendship with Gichin and what exactly happened on this day where he made a decision to become a god of destruction is revealed. Hopefully now Topo will actually take his spot, and Vermod can start the next stage of his journey. Maybe he will even teach students like Gichin did. Regardless, this is my explanation of Vermod and what this image that Toyotarou drew means to me. His origin story with what we know, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Just want to say thank you all for watching, and what do you think of this image that was given to us of a very young Vermod? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to share it and smash that like button. And if you enjoyed videos like this one, please check out my Deep Information and Stories playlist. I always love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Also, please subscribe to support the channel and turn on that notification bell to keep those theories coming.